Hello everyone, thank you for joining in our conversation. Today we're going to talk about exploitation with shell reverse and infection with the PowerShell using VBS file, right? So this is my contact on Twitter. My name is Filipi Pires and I would like to share with you my contact on social medias. I can use a lot Twitter and GitHub. Here I have some projects. By the way, I have this project published there and another project that I have been, doing, and my LinkedIn. If you like to share the message with me and exchange knowledge with. And I have here my web page with you can find there some talks that I'm doing, some events that you can find some event articles that I published and some information about me. Let me introduce myself. I'm a principal security engineer at talkdesk. talkdesk is a company from Portugal responsible to sell a product with a contact center as a service. CCaaS, right? So a contact center as a service. I'm a security researcher at Senha Segura international company, responsible to provide some PAN solutions and privileged access management solutions and all those things related to a zero trust. I'm a security researcher in these companies. My job there is, to make a research about security related to a malware analysis, what kind of attacks related to exploitations. These attackers have been using different techniques or different approaches in this exploitation that attackers have been used. And I'm advocate of the hacking is not a crime, very known product here in the US and in Europe, and I'm advocate from Brazil here. And this project is awesome for me, and because the idea of this project is to talk about the mindset, about the culture, about the life cycle, because hacking is really not a crime, right? So you can find many information about that in the website, and if you have time, you can explain more about that another day, right? So I'm a part of the coordinator team or the staff team of the DEFCON groups here in São Paulo. And by the way, I'm talking from Brazil now, São Paulo, here in my small office, in my balcony. As you can see here, my good vision. I like this vision, by the way. And I'm instructor of the Hacker Security. It's a Brazilian company. And I'm instructor of the malware analysis course there. And I'm instructor and writer and reviewer in this free magazine. And by the way, I have the course of the malware attacks with the strategy with the Q chain in Pentest magazine, right? So just information about me. If you'd like to see more information, you can find in my social medias, okay? So this is our agenda during this day. So first of all, I'd like to put all those people in the same page, basically to explain more about what is threat. So change your mind. I would like to provoke you about this thing, and some responsible disclosure, because I will talk about the CrowdStrike and attack actions, API manipulations, invokes using by the Microsoft, using the Microsoft invokes, right? So the through process actually in the infection process in the end, and the question at the end of this presentation, right? So just to be clear, my idea here is not to give you what the best solution that you can use in your ATR or your antivirus solutions. No, that my idea is not to explain that, just to explain how you can use your creative mind in different ways or different efficient and detection tests. Because when you need to test some product in your environment, for example, when you test using some POC, proof of concept, usually it's not make sense for me, because how you can prove that this solution it's really efficient for your environment? You need to receive some attacks during the POC, but it's not make sense because it's difficult. You don't know if you are receiving some attacks or not. So because of this, it's important you create your kind of tests to practice these tests or to perform these tests in different solutions, not only CrowdStrike, but you can test it, for example, in Cybereason, Trine Micro, or Semantic, or not Semantic, it's not a different name. I think it's a Broadcom, right? And a McAfee or Kaspersky or another, solution that you can imagine. Okay, so that's my idea, just to clarify. Okay. So what is exactly a threat? This is the main topic here. Just to put all those people on the same page, it's not my definition, it's the definition according to this ISO, okay? So threat is defined as a potential cause an incident may cause harms in the system or organizations, okay? So, I mean, it's all, usually it's related to a software attacks, because this software can be, exploited or using some malware to explore the victim machine, but in the end of the day, they will exploit some systems, and probably the system has software. So maybe the threat is related to a theft of intellectual property. So when you are a company responsible to provide or to create some product, and probably you have some intellectual property of this product, okay? So the theft of this intellectual property, it is a threat, okay? Identity theft, because of this, many companies now are applying the zero trust concept using in identity access management and privilege access management, because the identity of the company is pretty important, right? And sabotage, it's another different threat, okay, because probably when you expose some informations in the internet, so maybe it's from the attacker, or maybe it's a sabotage from the, some malicious guy or bad actor, and information distortion or example of the information security threats, okay? So just to put all those people on the same page. Another point is when you need to execute something related to a malware analysis, the first idea is to need to identify the artifact, because you don't know if the malicious or not. You have the artifacts. This is the important, is the identification step. So you can see if it is malware, malicious software, or maldoc, just to a simple explanation, okay? And after that, you can define what the best methodology to apply in this analysis. If you use the statistic analysis or dynamic analysis, of course, you need to study more deeply about each one of these methodology that you can apply in this analysis, because you can using tools to help you, commands and different ways, okay? And my suggestion, when you create a report, no matter the action or task or activity you execute, but it's important you prepare a report, because you need to have something to present to your manager, your coordinator, because after that you can create that I call the improving defenses mechanism, because probably when you analyze some artifact in your environment, you can see what is exactly the network, or not the network, but what exactly the path that the attacker using in your network, for example, what kind of bypass the attacker using in your environment, okay? So because of this, you can prepare a report and you can improve your defenses mechanism. And of course, you can create the cyber threat intelligence in your environment, because you can build it, right? You can working better to proactively, in a proactive way, okay? And of course, you will strengthening the cyber resilience, because the threats are changing all the time, okay? This is the simple definition. So changing your mind, this is my my idea to provoke you now to changing, to give you a changing about this, because usually when you talk about this topic, cyber threat hunting, in the market, usually talk about the guy working in a SOC, in Security Operations Center, or maybe in a support team, or maybe inside of the blue team. But my suggestion, my idea, it's a brainstorm here, that you can use in the hunting more related to a researcher, right? Because of course the log is pretty important, but how the threats works, how the malware works exactly more deeply, okay? So when you understand this, when you have in this your mind, you can create a different efficient and a detection testing in the security sensors. Remember, this is the main point here in our conversation in this day, okay? So threat hunting is a proactive approach to cyber defense with a what? A defensive mindset. This is my idea. Talk about the cyber defense, but with the offensive mind, when you use the process proactively and interactively searching through the network to detect and isolate advanced threat. So, but to understand about the advanced persistent threat, you need to understand how the threat is and how the binary on the malwares on the kind of attacks works. And when you understand that, remember, this is the mindset about that you need to understand about this threat. Not, of course, the log is important, because no logs, no crimes. It's a kind of joke, but it's true. You need to have the logs to investigate, okay? But how the exactly binary works, what kind of DLL you can find inside of the binary to have the real track more deeply inside of the binary. This is the mindset here. This is my idea from this topic when you talk about the hunting, malware hunting. It's more related to a malware hunt. So how you can hunting the malware, okay? What is a hunter? It's a person, right? So it's a qualified security professional to recognize, but to recognize they need to understand how the known threat works. And of course, when the professional, the security professional know how the known threats works, they can recognize the unknown threats or unknown behavior. Okay, so after that, they can isolate and disable a potential APTs, the acronym of the Advanced Persistent Threat. Okay, it's more advanced, using a manual or maybe an intelligence or artificial intelligence based on techniques or different kind of tools to help you to identify and these kind of techniques and detecting and monitoring in the network. So he can, or this professional, it's can search for a possible internal, take a look at internal or external intruder. But nowadays we have an internal intruder much time, because, and of course, depending on the step, or not the step, it depends on the phase of this attack. It happened external when the attacker tried to explore the perimeter, or maybe they are in an insider of your environment, inside of your perimeter, right? So this professional, it's have the capability to identify this kind of attacks. Okay, so I would like to explain about the two different techniques using the malware hunting or threat hunting. First of all, based on IOC, maybe this is very known in the security communities and the security or info security market. Okay, and is an indicator of compromise. It's pretty but in this case, it's always related to the post attack. So you already suffering, you already suffered the attack, okay? And after that, you can collect the domain, IP address, link it to this website, or link it to some phishing, or part of some checksum in your, or the value of the checksum related to some malware, or what kind of email it was delivered when you have. So some indicators included, like a suspicious on or non-hostile domain, or IPS suspicious, or maybe a signatures to detect the suspected or no hostile data. It's pretty important, such as antivirus or IDS signatures. But as you can see here, usually is related to the post attack, okay? Or data related to a potential exploitation of a vulnerability exploit, like related to some CVE IG, okay, that you can find, or it's known by MITRE. Another indicator is using some tactics and techniques and procedures associated with a suspicious or non-hostile events, or such some unauthorized tools like a Mimikatz, for example, or when you see this in your environment, this tool executing in your environment, but you don't have any offensive security team in your environment. So if you see here, and in your environment, not here, but when you see in your environment, maybe you need to see, because probably you are suffering some exploitation, or some people or some intruder to try to collect the credentials in your environment. Okay, so this is the technique based on IOCs. And you have the malware information sharing platform. The acronym is MISP. That you have the thread sharing platform. It's a free and open source software helping information to sharing with the community. It's pretty nice, because here you can collect and you can share with this indicator of the compromise. Okay, here's the link of the project. Probably you already know about that. I've already heard about that. And here's the picture that this picture is from Google. Okay, so from the internet. So no worries about that. So I don't have any PII here or any information about the customers. Okay, so and it just to show you the simple log here. And as you can see here, the event is from log key. Maybe it's a short letter, but it's a log key. It's a kind of ransomware. And as you can see here, different events, different informations related to this, some URLs that you can use in this kind of attack. So here, as you can see, some event informations, the URL, here the title of the email. So different indicators related to these IOCs. Remember, this is one of these techniques used in threat hunting. Okay, and another technique is based on the EOA. Okay, it's indicator of attack. It's solely and behavior on the focus. If they focus on why, it's nice, because you can ask, because it's a focus in behavior. The idea of the EOA is based on the attack before it happened. It's a pretty important to understand, right? Because here you can use it in a proactive way. before there happens some attacks in your organizations, okay? And based on the intention of the attacker, okay? It's more technique, strategy, it's more looking deeply based on tactics and techniques and procedures, the famous CTPs, okay? When properly positioned in more mature intelligence programs. So remember, and these AOAs, it's more related to the intelligence and the questions. So you need to understand more deeply, because you can see some suspicious behavior. You can investigate more before happen some attacks. Okay, some indicators include the real behavior, okay, not limited on the endpoint behavior analysis. Is a different when you have some function inside of the antivirus. You have this behavior monitoring or intelligence or machine learning, whatever name you prefer using. You have this in endpoint, but the real-time behavior, like how you can see the Windows event, right? So how you can monitoring this different behavior, how you can set some tags in your environment to see this suspicious behavior, okay? Another is the code execution metadata, or some, again, some DLLs or dynamic link libraries called. So how you can see the sequence of the events, all the actions you can find, or how you can see this kind of action in your environment, right? Suspicious. And user behavior in relationship to the digital threat. So some different behaviors based on some users, or maybe some accesses by these users in a non-work time, for example, right? So how we can see and remember why, it's based on the why these users are working at in this way, okay? And the TTPs, tactics and techniques and procedures linked to the hostile data, such as a malware used in some attacks, and persistent and health components. As you can see, some different components in your, I don't know, Windows Task Manager, for example, using in some attacks. And let's see some indicators. I would like to give you 10 examples, okay? Some internal hosts with a bad destinations. It's pretty common to see internal hosts to try connecting in a bad destinations about different countries that you don't have any business with this country. So why happened this? Okay, so internal hosts with a non-standard port, it's very common too. Because again, so why these internal hosts are requesting some access in an unknown non-standard ports, and the public server and DMZ to internal hosts, or I mean to try connecting internal hosts if you don't have any services or processing and these different servers, okay, of our malware detection. It's not common time. For example, you don't have any jobs at 1 a.m. and why you can find many tentatives of the attack in this exactly time. Okay, network is scanning by the internal host if you don't have any security offensive teams. Okay, multiple alarms events for a single host. It's pretty nice. Here I have some example I can explain in another time with you, but you have one single host but receiving or having many different alarms. The system is reinfected with the malware. So why these systems are infected? And different malwares, it's the same malware, different techniques. So why? Remember, based on behavior. Even you can block it. Pay attention to this. Even you can block it, the access. It's not a problem, but you can block it. Maybe you are thinking, okay, but I blocked the tentative. So why I need to investigate? Because you need to ask him why this same system are trying to be infected by someone. So why? Even you were blocked. But you need to remember, when you talk about the advanced persistent threat, it's not a short time attack. It's a long time attack. So the attacker or the threat actor will try to infect you a long time. So because of this, we need to understand, and you need to ask yourself about the why. Okay, so multiple logins from different regions. It's a simple question, right? It's a simple point here, because we want one person. It's impossible to make a multiple logins in different regions. Okay, internal hosts use much SMTP protocols, right? So that you have one SMTP server, or maybe you have more than one, but a different internal host to try connect, you know. internal host using many queries to external and internal DNS when you have one or two DNS. So why you are having internal host to try connect or to try using another external DNS? So pay attention to this. And okay, so first of all, I will explain the idea of the threads and the hunting to suggest you something related to a change your mind. Why I do that? Because this is the mindset that I'm using when I execute these tasks. Remember, I will clarify one more time. It's not to explain what the best solution is, CrowdStrike, Sophos, or Silence, or whatever solution you have, or Microsoft. No, not my idea here during these presentations. I made these tasks in different sensors, like CrowdStrike, like a Sophos, like a Cybereason, right? So, and I execute these tasks and I present the report for all those vendors. I just would like to explain this process and this company called CrowdStrike. So this is the responsible disclosure about this. So I reported this in the first report that I presented to the CrowdStrike at October 2020. As you can see here, the data and the time. And by the way, the email as I wrote in Portuguese because I reported for the Portuguese team in that time. Okay, so I explained, so sorry for the time because it's too late. How we talked in our conversation, our call, because I called to the the manager. Okay, I started this week to do some testing about the detection and efficient test with the CrowdStrike. Right, it's a POC as you can see here. But I explained to the CrowdStrike team that I will execute some efficient tests. If I bypass the solution, I will prepare a report and I will submit this report to the company. Okay, so I'm writing here, I'm sending 2 reports in English, written by me and the team from the Zoop Security Labs. This is my previous job, okay, and that we execute these tests. So some important information. The first is that the solution not blocked the some malware called VBS using the VBS that I will show you here during the presentation. And the second test, we can in the second test we can have another infection using another malware in MSA from the Malware Bazaar report. I mean, I'm using 2 different reports here, and the Zoop testing, it's a GitHub repository with many malware that you can find there, and the Malware Bazaar, another search of the malware. All those my tests and my course I always using the real malware, because it's in this way you can really improve your skill, and you can try and you can prove if this solution is efficient or not. Okay, so here's some impact that I explained to the CrowdStrike, not detected by signature base and dependence of the real-time engines. So for my side, it's dangerous because you need to test the malware, and in the same time the engines work. It works. If the engine doesn't work, so what happened? You will be infected. So this is some impact that I explained to the CrowdStrike. And take a look at the answer for the vendor. So, right, we just received a generic answer on Wednesday, the next day. Okay, our technical team analyzed the points and we didn't validate them then as a validated test for the solutions. Okay, you take your conclusion, and this is the printing in Portuguese, the answer, so I just translate for you, and the CrowdStrike team send me some links about the tests of the solutions executing by the third parties and the market global. Okay, so here's some reference that showed me, but I explain again. Okay, I agree about this test, but I performed my test here in my way. I explain all those steps I publish, and now after the disclosure time, okay, and it's not a validation test, okay, but I continue to talk with the team. I open the support case, and after 3 months that you can see here the data, I received this answer from the vendor, the final answer. Filipi, I'd like to thank you for your submission. Each has been forwarded to our internal team for a full review and modification or creating additional capabilities in Falcon should they be necessary, as you are not a current customer. So here it's I'm disappointed here in this phrase. Okay, this is my opinion. You can just not agree with me, no worries about that, but I was disappointed that time. Okay, as you are not a currently customer with active support subscription, However, we cannot provide you with any further information or results. So what can I do in this case? So they suggest me to talk with the account team, but I don't have account team because I'm not a customer. I'm doing the POC to try to be a new customer, but you have to imagine how the results in the end of these tests, right? And fortunately, we don't know we don't have the correct solution actually. Okay, so this is the answer from the vendor. So okay, let's talk about the actions of the attack that I perform in this environment. Okay, so the purpose was execute several inefficient detection tests again in our lab environment to protect with the endpoint solution provided by CrowdStrike. This document brings the results of the defense securities analysis with the offensive mind. Remember that this is the idea here. Offensive mind, using a reverse shell techniques to gain the access inside the victim machine. So this is the first test. And after that, to performing a malware in a VBS to infect the victim machine through using some script in a PowerShell to call the malware in our environment. Take a look at that I'm using many behavior in malware in my laboratory environment, because the purpose of the tools exactly works in in the real-time behavior. So I execute this in this way. So the first shell that I execute is the simple Python script. As you can see here, I import this. You can check this in the internet. I don't remember exactly directory because I'm not creating exactly this code. I have here, I saw it in the internet, but I don't remember exactly where I found this code. I just made some adjustment in the code, some parameter here, but it's not mine created in the beginning. Okay, but basically it's import of the same EOS and socket. Basically this attack is open a socket, as you can see here, right, to connect it in this IP address. It's my IP address on the attacker machine, and open this 1770 port, as you can see. And you open this process Windows System 32. It's administrator access in this case, so I have all privilege to access in this case. Okay, so that's simple shell that I'm executing this. So as you can see, and as you can imagine, when you try to infect your environment, so if you have an antivirus solution, it should be detected, right? Because you will open a socket in your environment, and it's a known behavior used by the attacker. Okay, so let's explain here the first demo that I will explain. So first of all, this is my machine, and by the way, I record all those tests because it's very important to show to the vendor. And always when I execute some testing, I record all those tests, and after that I present you to the vendor, because I will explain all those steps. So first of all, I set here, I show here my IP address of the victim machine, about the user connected here, and the information about the system infos. Okay, this is the first idea. It's a Microsoft Windows 10 Pro. It's it's updated solution here, as you can see, and all those informations about this machine. Okay, I called it threat hunting repository and so on. Second, I will explain about some directory and some files here. Let me check here. Okay, I will delete this file here, the VBS_Q. I think I will delete. Okay, yes, I will delete this here because I will transfer after that, as you can see. Okay, I have here the shell.php, shell.python, my script, as I mentioned. Okay, but first I would like to show you all those policies applying this laboratory, applying this victim machine, as I will show you. Okay, so first of all, I will open, by the way, the Process Explorer to show you about the behavior about this system operation, so how the system operation works. So first of all, this is my machine, Windows 10, as you can see, and the host name is threat hunting, and you can find here the sensor version that I am using in this test. So first of all, I will go to the preventing policies to show you about all those policies that I am applied in this environment. So one important thing here is I apply the best practice from CrowdStrike. So I'm using this best practice to apply. So as you can see here, one host protected by these policies, and this host is my host to protect this, as you can see here. So all those features is enabled, as you can see here. So if you see here, take a look at, we'll pause the video here and take a look at this. When you talk about the cloud antivirus malware, and here you have the adware and pub kind of malware, and as you can see here, you have the detection in an extra aggressive, and then the cloud antimalware, the same case, extra aggressive. And if you see here the next generation antivirus category by cloud machine learning, probably based on the same engine, okay. As you can see here, another the cloud antivirus, and you can see here it's totally extra aggressive. I mean, I applied the more aggressive to detect, so I need to have the logs about some information. The next generation antivirus, the same case, is extra aggressive. It's totally paranoid, right? Paranoid applications of the policy, as you can see. In this case, CrowdStrike not recommending to put in the extra aggressive. Why? Because probably you have a false positive, right? But I am trying to block my tentative. Because of this, I put in the extra aggressive. And I can talk now, as you can see here, the ransomware applications, okay, the ransomware behavior, take a look at that, the ransomware behavior, exploit mitigations, as you can see here, it's enabled, okay, exploitation behavior enabled, so all those things the solution is totally enabled, okay. And after that, I will show you here the process of the CrowdStrike running. As you can see here, the Falcon container and the Falcon services, two services responsible to execute the engines inside of the victim machine. And again, I'm showing you here in the process explorer. It's small because it's a recorded, okay, but just to show you about that. This is the victim machine. So the second point is I will show you my attacker machine. This is my attacker machine. I will open the 7070 port in one more time, and I will listening in this port, this communication using a Python. So I'm using a Python, simple Python script, and I execute this, open the process in a green color, as you can see here, and take a look at this, the process. It's not too high in the CPU, and after that I open a socket, and now I gain the access in the victim machine, as you can see here. So I have here the informations inside of this victim machine. I have the control of the victim machine. So I'm just simple like that. I execute the Python script, call it, and some Python script, open a socket using a TCP, okay, again the access in the victim machine. But as I show you, all those policies is applied as I show you, okay. And as you can see, not detected this simple behavior, okay, and by the way, malicious behavior. So after that, I go to the desktop folder here, and I will create a simple joke. As I show you here, we don't have any files created here in the desktop. And after that, I will create a simple folder, simple file here, and I call loose.txt, just a simple joke, okay. And as you can see here, and after that, I execute this, and all those things is written in the victim machine. And if I return in the victim machine, as I will show you here, take a look at that. I have this file here, and if I minimize here, I can see the file here. So I have a control in my victim machine, okay? So the second test is API manipulation. So I am here in the victim machine. So what kind of I gain the access using the reverse shell. So the next steps I will be using an API manipulation. So I would like to call some malware or something in some repository, okay. So I using this API manipulations using a VBS underscore q.ps1. So basically this is script in PowerShell using this API manipulation by the Malware Bazaar repository. I don't know if you know, but I can share the link after this presentation. But by the way, I will using this API to call something, and what I will call this hash file. I will set this hash file, and when after I'm seeing what kind of path I have in my victim machine. In this case, I have this path because in the video, when I infected the victim machine, I found this path. I can using this to download my VBS_Q, and I can using the two different invoke requests. Okay, just to explain about the API manipulation. But before I execute the API manipulation, I will need to call this PowerShell, because this PowerShell is not in the victim machine. It is my attacker machine. So I need to download, I need to transfer this file from my attack machine to the victim machine. So this is, I will explain in this the second video. Okay, so I have the access in this machine as I show you here. So the next step is I need to transfer this PowerShell in my attacker machine to the victim machine. So this is, I will open the AnyGrog to put in my my machine in the internet, and I'm simulate a kind of command and controller here in this case, because I open these servers, right? So I will open this and I forward my local machine to this AnyGrog website, right? So based on where? Based on the US. And when I execute this test, I am in Brazilian, by the way. So I will open my services and put in the US. Remember, my environment is in Brazil, and when I perform this test. So I will here execute, I will check just about the file, some file as you can see here. This is the folder, this is the file, VBS_Q.PowerShell, as I mentioned, okay, and using API manipulation. So I will pass here as I'm explaining you, and this is the URL that I can move my malicious PowerShell using API manipulations to send something. Remember, in the script, I will send something using this PowerShell. Remember this? And so the next steps, I need to call this. I need to call this folder. I need to call this file. Okay, so I will call the PowerShell because this is a true process in the victim machine. I will use Invoke-WebRequest, but I will explain the next demo, okay? But I will be using this to invoke this URL using my command and controller server, okay? Based on where? Based on US. So that's the second step. I will access my command and controller in US, as you can see here, and I will download my file through the victim machine. And as you can see here, you have the get access, and as you can see here, you have the request in my AnyGrog server. Okay, so in this moment, I have here my file inside of the victim machine, as you can see here. So now I have my PowerShell inside of the victim machine. But remember, I manipulate requests inside of the victim machine. Okay, so the next step is using Invoke, as I using here the WebRequest. So let me explain about the code one more time. So again, this is using the API. Remember, this API or this PowerShell, I will call this file. This file is a VBS malicious, okay? And I will using the Invoke-WebRequest to execute this, to request something in some places inside of this machine, as I used in this before in this another demo to transfer my malicious code in my CAC. I using this Invoke-WebRequest, okay? And the second invoke, I will be using the Invoke-expression to call the target folder and to set the hash file, because this file that I will download, I will need to invoke this. I need to execute this file in the victim machine automatically, right? So I will execute this and I call the file setting the VBS file, because I know that this file is a VBS file, okay? So this is the second expression, okay? So let me explain the infection process based on this malware. So this malware has a code, okay? If you try to copy this code and paste in talkdesk, when you have some antivirus solutions based on the signatures, usually always antivirus will detect it as a malware. Why? Because this VBS is known as a malware in more than 50 engines by the VirusTotal. Remember this information. I can share with you. You can check this hash, and you can put this hash in the in VirusTotal, and you can check. This is a malicious malware. It's not a new attack. It's an old attack. It's a malware, okay, based on VBS. And take a look at this code. It's pretty interesting. As you can see, they create extension. So the malware will changing the extensions in the victim machine. Type extension. They will change all those extensions in docx, in doc, XLS, and the MP3 and text and JPEG, and another is text. So as you can see, they will execute this action, malicious action, the very similar behavior that Answer have, right? So you can agree with me. And they will created this object using and basically an Windows script process, right? So using the VBS scripting in the victim machine. Okay, so this is the simple code malware. So let's see about this attack. So remember, I have my file now, my VBS in the victim machine. I will using a PowerShell now to execute this PowerShell in the victim machine. But first of all, I will put the VBS, and some error happened. Why? Because I need to set here the doc and the slash here to execute the PowerShell because of this error. And I will type again. So PowerShell, I will call the PowerShell as you can see, and doc slash, and after that I'll call my malicious folder. And take a look at this. The PowerShell, it's running one more time in the victim machine. So, and after that I will call again the API as I mentioned. I will download this hash is malicious. This is the malware, okay. And after that, as you can see, then you have the Invoke-expression. The malware will execute automatically inside of the victim machine. So as you can see here, take a look at this, the W script running in the victim machine. So the solution didn't block it at this moment now. So as you can see, the Windows scripts are running. And take a look at this, the PD here, and take a look here, the informations in the victim machine. So the CPU, take a look at this, it's high CPU. It's growing the CPU, as you can see here, starting in 49, but now, as you can see here, in 76, better 67, sorry for that. And as you can see, you have the high CPU. If you see here in the victim machine, take a look at that, what happened here in the CPU, in my process running, the CPU is too high, it's growing. And if I try to open another task manager, as you can see here, it's not possible. Why? Because the CPU is too high in this case. And I try to open the task manager to show you about the Windows script, but impossible to open because the CPU is too high. Something happened in the background of this in this victim machine, as you can see here. So let's see what happened. So let me go to the more in the end of this presentations, and just to show you here. Okay, before, let me go here, let me return it here just to show you. Okay, I will show you about the connections in this victim machine, and I will return here. And take a look at this, all those files are changing to the VBS. Remember that we have different files here. So if I show you here, remember all those files is in PowerShell. Let me pause here. Okay. You have here payload doctext, binary in PowerShell. You have here in a Tor.c in the C programming language, in a Python. So we have here in the victim machine different files, right? So evil.vbs, and after this infection, as I show you here, all those files were changed by .vbs. Remember, in the malware code, all those exchanging will be changed to .vbs. We saw in the code, okay? So if you return here in our desktop one more time, remember the file that I created. Take a look at this, doctext.vbs. So our files are changed by VBS. The infection happened. The customer, it was infected, as you can see here. If I try type, take a look at this, I don't have any other information inside that. Okay, so if I see here, the files are infected. If I try to see about the folders, take a look at this, all those folders, all those files that I have inside of the victim machine my tools in sysinternals. Take a look at this. All those files are changed. The machine is totally infected, as you can see here. So the solution didn't detect that. So, and after that, I reported all those informations to the vendor, but unfortunately, I don't have any informations related to this. So I execute this and I finish my presentations, I think. So here's some recommendations book. Usually the people asking me about some recommendations about this topic. So this is a pretty nice books that you can see. You can try and find some information about that. And I have, by the way, these two books. It's a pretty nice and some recommendations. And okay, I finished my presentation here. If you have any questions, so please let me know. One more time here, my contact on social medias and my webpage. So if you have any question, please let me know. Thank you for the organization team for this opportunity. And thank you one more time and see you in the next event.